Hi, 5th grade. Mrs. Pecora here, back again to read more of The Witches. So we just left off. The little boy is scampering across the dining room floor, but he's being smart and he's sticking close to the wall. So we're going to read and see if he makes it into the kitchen. And once again, if you hear some weird snoring noise, I promise I didn't fall asleep reading the book. It's my puppy Winston, who has decided that he's sitting next to me. And even though he likes to read, he falls asleep because he is still just a puppy. All right, boys and girls, so here we go. Let's continue reading. Oops, wait a minute here. Guess I gotta find where we left off. Okay, here we go. All right, here we go. I ran. Oh, how I ran. I don't think anyone saw me. They were all too busy eating. But to reach the door leading to the kitchen, I had to cross the main entrance to the dining room. I was just about to do this when in poured a great flood of females. I pressed myself against the wall, clutching the bottle. At first, I saw only the shoes and ankles of these women who were surging in through the door. But when I glanced up a bit higher, I knew at once who they were. They were the witches coming to dinner. I waited until they had all passed me by, then I dashed on towards the kitchen door. A waiter opened it to go in. I slipped in after him and hid behind the big garbage bin on the floor. I stayed there for several minutes just listening to all the talk and the racket. By golly, what a place that kitchen was. The noise, the steam, and the clatter of pots and pans, and all the cooks shouting and the waiters rushing in and out from the dining room, yelling the food orders to the cooks. 4 soups and 2 lambs and 2 fish for table 28. 3 apple pies and 2 strawberry ice creams for number 17. Stuff like that going on all the time. Not far above my head, there was a handle sticking out from the side of the garbage bin. Still clutching the bottle, I gave a leap, turned a somersault in the air, and caught hold of the handle with the end of my tail. Suddenly, there I was swinging to and fro upside down. It was terrific. I loved it. This, I told myself, is how a trapeze artist in a circus must feel as he goes swishing through the air high up in the circus tent. The only difference was that his trapeze could swing backwards and forwards. My trapeze, my tail, could swing me in any direction I wanted. Perhaps I would become a circus mouse after all. I think he's over here somewhere, boys and girls, but it's hard to see. Oh, there he is, right there. Just then, a waiter coming in with a plate in his hand, and I heard him saying, "The old hag on table 14 says this meat is too tough. She wants another portion." One of the cooks said, "Give me her plate." I dropped to the floor and peeped around the garbage can. I saw the cook scrape the meat off the plate and slap another bit on. Then he said, "Come on, boys, give her some gravy." He carried the plate around to everyone in the kitchen, and do you know what they did? Every one of those cooks and kitchen boys spat on the old lady's plate. "See how she likes it now," said the cook, handing the plate back to the waiter. Quite soon, another waiter came in and he shouted, "Everyone in the big RSPCC party wants the soup." That's when I started sitting up and taking notice. I was all ears now. I edged a bit farther around the garbage bin so I could see everything that was going on in the kitchen. A man with a tall white hat, who must have been the head chef, shouted, "Pour the soup for the big party in the large silver soup tureen." I saw the head chef place a huge silver basin on the wooden side bench that ran along the wall. The whole length, of the kitchen against the opposite wall. Into that silver basin is where the soup is going, I told myself. So that is where the stuff in my little bottle must go as well. I noticed that high up near the ceiling, above the side bench, there was a long shelf crammed with saucepans and frying pans. If I can somehow clamber up on that shelf, I thought, then I've got it made. I shall be directly above the silver basin. But first, I must somehow get across the other side of the kitchen and then up onto the middle shelf. A great idea came to me. Once again, I jumped up and hooked my tail around the handle of the garbage bin. Then, hanging upside down, I began to swing. Higher and higher I swung. I was remembering the trapeze artist in the circus I had seen last Easter, and the way he had got the trapeze swinging higher and higher and higher, and had then let go and gone flying in through the air. So just at the right moment, at the top of my swing, I let go with my tail and went soaring clear across the kitchen and made a perfect landing on the middle shelf. By golly, I thought, what marvelous things a mouse can do, and I'm only a beginner. No one had seen me. They were all far too busy with their pots and pans. From the middle shelf, I somehow managed to shinny up the little water pipe in the corner, and in no time at all, I was up on the very top shelf just under the ceiling among all the saucepans and frying pans. I knew that no one could possibly see me up there. It was a superposition, and I began working my way along the shelf until I was directly above the big empty silver basin they were going to pour the soup into. I put down my bottle, I unscrewed the top and crept to the edge of the shelf and quickly poured what was in it straight into the silver basin below. The next moment, one of the cooks came along with a gigantic saucepan of steaming green soup and poured the whole lot into the silver basin. He put the lid on the basin and shouted, "Soup for the big party, all ready to go out." Then a waiter arrived and carried the silver basin away. I had done it! If I ever got back alive to my grandmother, the witches were still going to get the mouse maker. I left the empty bottle behind a large saucepan and began working my way back along the top shelf. It was much easier to move about without the bottle. I began using my tail more and more. I swung from the handle of one saucepan to another, all the way along the top shelf, while far below me cooks and waiters were all bustling about, and kettles were steaming, and pans were spluttering, and pots were boiling, and I thought to myself, oh boy, this is the life. What fun it is to be a mouse doing an exciting job like that. I kept right on swinging. I swung most marvelously from handle to handle, and I was enjoying myself so much that I completely forgot I was in full view of anyone in the kitchen who might happen to glance upward. What came next happened so quickly I had no time to save myself. I heard a man's voice yelling, "A mouse! Look at that dirty little mouse!" And I caught a glimpse below me of a white-coated figure in a tall white hat, and then there was a flash of steel as the carving knife whizzed through the air, and there was a shout of pain in the end of my tail, and suddenly I was falling head first towards the floor. Even as I fell, I knew just what had happened. I knew that the tip of my tail had been cut off, and that I was about to crash on the floor, and everyone in the kitchen would be after me. "A mouse!" they were shouting. "A mouse! A mouse! Catch it quick!" I hit the floor and jumped up and ran for my life. All around me, there were big black boots going stamp, 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 and I dodged around them and ran, twisting and turning and dodging and swerving across the kitchen floor. "Get it!" they were shouting. "Kill it! Stamp on it!" The whole floor seemed to be full of black boots stamping away at me, and I dodged and swerved and twisted and turned, and then in sheer desperation, hardly knowing what I was doing, wanting only a place to hide, I ran up the trouser leg of one of the cooks and I clung to his sock. "Hey!" the cook shouted. "Jeepers creepers, he's got at my trousers. Hold on, boys, I'll get him this time." The man's hands began slapping at the trouser leg, and now I really was going to get smashed if I didn't move quickly. There was only one way to go, and that was up. I dug my little claws into the hairy skin of the man's leg and scuttled upwards, higher and higher, past the calf and past the knee and onto the thigh. "Holy smoke!" the man was yelling. "It's going all the way up. It's going right up my leg." I heard shrieks of laughter coming from the other cooks, but I can promise you I wasn't laughing myself. I was running for my life. The man's hands were slapping all around me, and he was jumping up and down as though we were standing on hot bricks, and I kept climbing and I kept dodging, and very soon I reached the very top of the trouser leg, and there was nowhere else to go. "Help, help!" the man was screaming. "It's in my knickers! It's running around in my flaming knickers! Get it out! Someone help me get it out!" "Take off your trousers, you silly slob," someone else shouted. "Pull down your pants and we'll soon catch him." I was in the middle of the man's trousers now, in the place where the two trouser legs meet. And the zips begin. It was dark and awful hot in there. I knew I had to keep going. I dashed onward and around the top of the other trouser leg. I went down it like greased lightning and came out at the bottom of it. Once again, I was on the floor. I heard the stupid cook still shouting, "It's in my trousers! Get it out! Will someone please help me get it out before it bites me?" I caught a flashing glimpse of the entire kitchen staff crowding around him and laughing their heads off, and nobody saw the little brown mouse as it flew across the floor and dived into a sack of potatoes. I burrowed down in among the dirty potatoes and held my breath. The cook must have started taking his trousers off, because right now they were shouting, "It's not in there! There's no mice in there, you silly twerp!" "There was! I swear there was!" the man was shouting back. "You never had a mouse in your trousers! You don't know what it feels like!" The fact that a tiny little creature like me had caused such a commotion among a bunch of grown-up men gave me a happy feeling. I couldn't help smiling in spite of the pain in my tail. I stayed there until I was sure they had forgotten about me. Then I crept out of the potatoes and cautiously poked my tiny head over the edge of the sack. Once again, the kitchen was all of a bustle, with cooks and waiters rushing about everywhere. I saw the waiter who had come in earlier with the complaint about the tough meat coming in again. "Hey, boys," he shouted. "I asked the old hag if the new bit of meat was any better, and she said it was perfectly delicious. She said it was really tasty." I had to get out of that kitchen and back to my grandmother. There was only one way to do this. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to stop there, and we'll stay tuned tomorrow to see if he gets back to Grandmama.